I couldn't wait to dive into Crossroads. For one, it's one of the most often requested games for me to type in. But it's more than that. Crossroads is often called one of the greatest type-ins of all time, maybe even the greatest. That's an awfully big reputation. The question is, does it deserve it? Let's find out. Crossroads was written by Steve Harter and was published in the December 1987 issue of Compute's Gazette. It's written entirely in machine language, meaning that I'll be using Compute's MLX editor to enter the code. Which is great, because MLX is super easy to use. But also not so great, because entering machine language programs is a bit tedious. When I'm typing in a program written in BASIC, I enjoy following along with the code, learning little bits and pieces along the way. But programs like this are mostly gibberish. There are some interesting parts here and there, parts that have some obvious structure, but those parts are just a bit easier to type in. They're still completely unreadable. It's always made me wonder why Compute didn't publish the actual assembly language. I mean, I know that would require an assembler, making the whole process a bit more complicated. But Compute already had a history of providing us with great tools for entering programs. And as a huge side bonus, it would have been a great way to learn assembly, which, I'll admit, always felt a bit out of reach as a kid. Browsing through these old magazines is one of my favorite things, and I'm always amazed and amused at some of the oddities in them. And apart from just making me chuckle a bit, they really help paint a picture of where computing was at the time. There are a few that stood out in this issue. For starters, I got a kick out of this. I have to imagine that everyone who had a Commodore 64 was more than familiar with pirated software. Some of us more than others. For most of us, it was simply how we got most of our games. We knew that it was technically wrong, but at the same time, it was just so common. I mean, I knew the names of the biggest hacker groups as well as the publishers themselves. But as common as piracy was, it was still technically underground. So, seeing an ad in a mainstream magazine like Compute for legitimate software that could break copy protection is definitely amusing. As an aside, I don't remember this program at all. But I can't imagine that I would have been interested in it back in the day. It couldn't be better than Fast Hack'em, right? This next one is so 1980s. Computers were still new, and the idea that they could be used to mathematically simulate, well, pretty much anything, was really interesting. Which makes President-elect somehow seem bizarre and inevitable at the same time. Published by SSI, the Simulation Kings, it allowed you to model a US election. It modeled state tendencies and a whole lot of internal and external factors to simulate the process, which, you know, is exactly what the kids wanted. But you could create your own candidate, which would have been fun. Jumpman for president, anyone? The most interesting thing for me, though, is that it did well. The series, first released in 1981, ended up selling about 45,000 copies, and reviews were positive. Somewhat crazier, Computer Gaming World ranked it 131st in their 1996 list of the best games ever. Who knew? But of all the fun artifacts in this issue, this is my favorite. You might remember the game Echelon. It was a 3D space game by Access, the company that brought us Beachhead and Leaderboard Golf. The game itself wasn't great. I remember it mostly being really slow. But it was memorable, mostly because of the headset it came with. It was called the Lipstick, and it was basically a voice-activated fire button. You'd plug it into a joystick port, and saying anything into it would trigger the action. which may have been the most fun part of the game, because you know that most of us weren't saying fire to get it to work. Which brings us to the Lipstick Plus. The original only worked with Echelon, but Access thought it could have broader appeal, so they produced one that would work with any game. So now, when playing Bruce Lee, you could just yell instead of pressing the button. I don't think it sold very well. The introductory text for Crossroads reads like a pulp novel. Creatures are hunched around corners, eerily quiet while digging through garbage cans for scraps or playing an illegal dice game. One particularly nasty one sees you, stares you down, and begins its chase. It's a very atmospheric setup for an arcade game that plays like a cross between Robotron and Wizard of War. You find yourself in a maze, and your goal is to capture spars, which are magical shields, before the monsters do. And you don't want them to, because they grow more powerful that way. Once you have 5, you proceed to the next level. And each level is packed with monsters. There are 9 different types in total, with names like blue fleas, orange lions, purple rubberheads, and green mashed potatoes. You get the idea. Interestingly, those names didn't come from Steve Harter. They came from Compute along with the artwork. But the monsters are more than just funny names. Each has its own characteristics and is worth a different number of points. More interestingly though, they have friendship preferences. For example, monkeys and rubberheads are bitter enemies and they'll fight each other. This is great for you, of course, and getting far in the game requires that you understand these interactions. In fact, the game wants you to experiment with these relationships before playing. You can introduce different monsters onto the demo screen, watching who they like and who they don't. So it's kind of like an arena battle simulator, which sounds like it could be just as much fun as playing the game itself. I'm intrigued. One of the most interesting things about Crossroads is that Compute obviously knew they had a really good game on their hands. On the cover, they grandly promote it as one of their finest type-ins ever. And all these years later, that reputation is held up. It currently holds a high rating on C64. There are published interviews with Steve Harter, and it's fondly remembered, along with its sequel, as one of the very best type-ins, if not the best ever published. So it's definitely straddling that line between a full-fledged commercial release and a type-in. At the time Crossroads was written, Harter was 17 years old, and he says that it helped pay for college. He didn't indicate how much he received for Crossroads, but said that he got about $5,000 for its sequel. That was a lot of money back then, roughly equating to 15 grand today. So between both games, he was doing alright for a teenager in the late 80s. But I wonder how much better it could have done as a mainstream release. Harter has expressed a bit of regret for not pursuing a deal with a different kind of publisher, and wonders what kind of extra features and polish would have been added in the process. I get what he's saying, but at the same time, remember that this was late 1987. Commercial 64 games had become considerably more elaborate and ambitious, and Crossroads was a throwback to an older style of arcade game. As good as it is, it's hard to say how a full commercial release of Crossroads would have performed. I've got to say, typing long machine language programs is always a bit of a chore. As I mentioned earlier, they're just not all that interesting to enter. But making progress feels good, and slowly but surely you work your way through each column of numbers. And finally you're here, the last column and only a few more lines to go. It's taken me just over 2 hours to enter this so far, and I'll be honest, I won't be too disappointed if I don't see a hex value in the next few days. But it's all worth it in the end, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how Crossroads turns out. Hopefully there were no errors along the way. Alright, and done. Time to save it. And 24 blocks, or 6K. I was expecting something a bit bigger than that. This feels remarkably compact. Okay, let's try it out. Oh wow, look at everything on the screen. It's packed. There's so much going on. And it's just the demo screen. Oh, and oh yeah, we can play around with the monsters here. Let's try that out. Okay, pressing number 1 gives us blue fleas, which are apparently no match for anything on the screen, especially those lions. Poor little guys. Alright, let's see about the red human mutants. Oh, cool, these guys shoot. And yeah, the blue fleas didn't stand a chance. Oh, the blue manatee. Oh, those red guys are just bullies. Alright, let's throw in some cyan mashed potatoes. Oh no, are the reds unstoppable? Oh, nope. No, they are not. The orange lions are just destroying them. I haven't even started the game yet, but this is way too much fun. It's like watching a Sims deathmatch. Oh, those lemon yellow sharks, they don't fool around. Have we found our alphas now? Apparently not. The blue rubberheads are tough. But here come the lions for the comeback. This all reminds me of a Far Side cartoon where a couple of aliens are shaking a jar with some humans in it, trying to get them to fight. Man, let's just sacrifice some more fleas for the fun of it. I feel like I could do this all day. But I think it's time to end the science experiment and actually play the game. Okay, here we go. Cool. I love how the different monster types phase in. Oh, I see. I'm the little red guy in the bottom left corner. I don't like the color. He's too close to the others. I think I can change him though. Yeah, here we go. Let's go with white. That'll be easy to see. We can see my lives and the number of shields in the upper left, and you need to get 5 to proceed to the next level. Ouch! Oh, and cool. I love how your bullets keep going through the screen. That makes for a pretty nice trap, actually. And there we go, level complete. This is fun. One of the really impressive things here is just how much is happening on the screen at once. It really does have a Robotron vibe. And the AI is quite impressive. In an interview, Harter mentioned that the core AI mechanic is based on how far each monster can see. If an enemy enters their sight line, they'll hunt it down. For example, the blue fleas can see 4 or 5 spaces ahead. The beginning of each level is absolute chaos. It makes sense to sit back for a few seconds to let the monsters take care of each other. Man, those yellow guys don't fool around. The game speed is also really impressive. You'd think that things would slow down to a crawl with this much going on, but Harter mentioned that the character speeds aren't a function of the processor being bogged down. Their speeds are based on timings that he put into the game, and they actually speed up over time. The biggest giveaway are the player's bullets, which always move at a consistent rate. Nice. Uh-oh, all the tough monsters are on this level. It's just absolute carnage in here. Those purple rubber heads suck. They bounce your bullets back if you hit them from behind. And the monsters get tougher when they take a shield, so that probably isn't good. Gotcha. I can't get over how insane the start of each level is. Also, how cool are those pixelated explosions? They are the only sprites used in the game actually, and the mechanics for them are quite cool. There are 4 different explosion patterns, and the sprites are randomly generated when the game starts. So, every time you play, the explosions are a bit different. The rest of the graphics are all character graphics, which move in half steps. I love the variety in the levels. This is an absolutely fantastic arcade game. At a glance, it looks completely chaotic, but as you start getting into its rhythm, you realize that it's not chaotic at all. Everything moves with purpose and according to their rules. And the mazes are very well designed. Each level feels unique and has its own strategies for clearing them. Oh, if you want to play it, by the way, I've posted it on our Discord so that you can check it out. The link is in the description. And speaking of well-designed mazes, isn't this level interesting? The others have all been pretty open, but this one forces you to take specific paths. And as usual, these lions are beasts. The completionist in me wants me to clear them all out, but that middle section is just a bit too dangerous. I think I'll leave them alone. I can't tell you how much I hate those purple monsters. They are hard to kill and deadly at the same time. It totally makes sense why they give you the most points for destroying. And yeah, that felt inevitable. But still, what a game! I feel like I'll be able to make it a lot further with some practice, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. Have you played Crossroads? What do you think? Personally, I think it lives up to the hype. It's a brilliant arcade game. If this were released in the early 80s, I think it would have been a classic. And not just as a type-in, I mean an actual across-the-board classic. It just hits all of those arcade buttons, and I'll be playing this for a while, trying to improve my high score. Oh, and speaking of high scores, if you want to share yours, please do. And even better, if you want to get into the code and give me a savable high scoreboard, I'd love to see that. And to answer my question from the beginning of the video,
the question is, does it deserve it?
Is this the best type-in ever? Well, I obviously haven't played every type-in ever published, but I've played hundreds of them, and This is the best one I've ever typed in. Apparently, Crossroads 2 is supposed to be even better, but until I play that one, I'm happy to say that yeah, Crossroads could very well be the best type-in. A huge congratulations to Steve Harter for this one. This feels like the absolute peak of what a kid could put together in his bedroom in the 80s, and good on him for sending it to compute. Yeah, there were other options out there, but who knows how that would have turned out. As it turned out, Compute's Gazette was able to publish an absolute classic, and we were all able to play it for a few dollars and a couple hours of typing. Not bad. Now excuse me, I have a high score to beat. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. And if you have any memories of Crossroads or typing in your own programs, I'd love to hear them. Drop them in the comments or on the Discord. Hope to see you again.